Good evening, everybody. The book that I chose to share with us today is going to be I Dissent. It's the biography of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It was written by Debbie Levy, and it was illustrated by Elizabeth Baddeley. The book is fairly new, as it was written in 2017, and it covers the life of Supreme Court Justice and civil rights activist Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Go ahead and take a look and see all the awards that this book has already received. A lot of them are very specific to groups of people, but remember, this book has been out less than 24 months and it's already been recognized for the themes, the ideas, and the other things that it covers. The book does a very good job introducing who Ruth Bader Ginsburg is. She was born in the 1940s to a Jewish family, and she grew up during a time where women were often viewed as second-class citizens. Everything they did was to be subservient to men. So this was something that she did not agree with, and her mother didn't either. Throughout her life, she regularly stood up against those societal norms that she felt were incorrect. She went on to become a lawyer, a law professor, a judge in Washington, D.C., and eventually a Supreme Court justice. As I mentioned, a lot of the things that shaped her into the person she was came from the times of the day. Remember, she was a young child in the 40s, a teenager in the 50s, and then went to college in the 60s. Throughout her life, she had regular challenges, such as not being allowed to go into restaurants because she was Jewish when she went outside of the city, and also seeing some of the things that were happening to African Americans. She was selected to give a speech at her graduation, and her mother, who was a huge role model in her life, passed away the day before, and she did not go to the ceremony or give her speech. As she went to college, she was regularly told that she shouldn't be studying law, she should be studying home economics or things like that, and to think that she would get a profession afterwards was ridiculous. She eventually met her husband Marty, who was also interested in pursuing law, and they agreed that together they would go to law school, and at this simultaneously, they would have a baby, and they finished law school together while raising a young child. Ruth Bader Ginsburg's life had many accomplishments. When she first attended law school, there was only 9 females in a class of 500 males. Afterwards, she had an incredibly hard time getting hired. Once she did get hired, they noticed her skill and successes inside the courtroom. This allowed her to get greater and greater responsibility. This success was so noted that she began to lecture at a college and became one of the first female law professors in the nation. While lecturing, she was picked to be a judge in Washington, D.C. Her actions there and her notable cases led her to be selected by President Bill Clinton to be the first Jewish woman on the Supreme Court. She is most known on the Supreme Court for giving dissents or disagreements when cases are argued and the opposing side gets to say why they opposed. She would regularly write these dissents and became very well noted as a champion of civil rights, and she spoke her mind regularly. I think this is a great book for any classroom, especially those maybe 4th, 5th, and 6th graders who are willing to read more about and understand some of those hard to talk about topics like civil rights, laws, and things that happened in our past that weren't always correct and should have happened. It highlights a person, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who regularly fought for the right thing and faced struggle and overcame it. The secondary benefit of this book is that it is a social studies orientated book that talks about how the court works. It talks about how Supreme Court judges are elected, how higher education works, and also some very important milestones and the people who were part of it. The illustrations throughout the book were awesome. They were semi-comical, but they were very accurate. Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. This was a quote from Ruth Bader Ginsburg. If you do any research on her, you're going to find that she's full of quotables. She's known for rattling off these speeches that hit home and are very memorable. Throughout her life, she's still serving now, and she's the oldest serving Supreme Court Justice. She's done incredible things. I think this book highlights them and really gives you a good fuel for some future discussions. The book was based mostly off previous biographies, official biographies. That's one good thing about having a living historical figure, especially in the late 20th century. People have been writing books about her for years, and she also included her own autobiography, which was cited throughout this. At the very end of the book, it talks more into kind of in-depth process of her life and the things that she struggled, and it provides many other books that you could go and learn more information about and where the basis of this book came from. But I think for children, it's a great, easy read that you could do and you could cover, and you could start some topics and maybe introduce other topics like political parties or movements or things like that. So I would say this is a very good read, especially if you're looking for something to maybe broach some topics which need to be talked about. Hope you enjoyed the presentation. Please message me if you have any questions, and recommend checking this book out.